Hello, and welcome to the Atomic Lizards podcast. I'm Udi, and I'm joined with my lovely co hosts, Miranda and Dan. Today, we have a bonus episode for you about the HBO Max series, The Last of Us. We'll be talking spoilers for the show and for the first video game, so if you haven't watched the show or played the game, go do that and then come back. That being said, let's get started. So, what were your guys' thoughts on the show overall, as the first full season?
So who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Go for it.
Alright, so I thought it was a very good show that is really different than other types of video game to visual media. It's definitely a story about love and the different types of love there is, like parent-child, first romantic love, and then like everything in between, and how that literally affects everyone's decision making throughout the entire show. I liked the fact that they kind of addressed the fact that Ellie is a 14-year-old girl, so she has a period, and she finds the tampons and the menstrual cup. Pretty cool to see that, because they don't usually talk about that stuff. I thought all the actors did really good, and they definitely work well together. They have a good like chemistry. Um, it has a good flow and like good references to the video game based off my limited knowledge of it. So it's nice to see them incorporating that, but also adapting it to be visual since you're not in that gameplay. So they focus more on the personal stories. And I don't really feel like anything's missing. It seems like a very cohesive story. Again, because I haven't played the video game, I don't know if there is stuff missing, but it's just really good. Definitely brings you an emotional roller coaster every single episode you watch. So that's my general thoughts.
All right. I guess I'll go next. So, thoughts on the Last of Us TV show by HBO Max. This is definitely one of the best, if not the best, video game adaptation we have gotten so far. Now, I've felt like video game adaptations have been starting to take a turning point because you all know the story. Ever since the first ever since the original Super Mario Brothers movie from like what was it, like 1990, starring Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, ever since that movie came out, video game adaptations, whether it be through movies, TV shows, or whatever, maybe not necessarily TV shows, but definitely movies. Video game adaptations have always had this reputation of being awful. Because, like I said, you had the Super Mario Brothers movie, you had the Street Fighter movie, Mortal Kombat movie. Like some people consider that to be a guilty pleasure, but it's still not a very good movie. And then like you had all those Uwe Boll movies from like the early 2000s that were just awful. And it just for the longest time, video game adaptations have never been able to have be properly put on screen because filmmakers have always had a hard time trying to find that balance to not only please fans but also please the general audience. Now there are some interesting videos and topics out there about people saying like there never was a video game curse. Like, I know there was an IGN article about that, and there's a YouTuber who goes by the name of Chris Stuckman on YouTube. He reviews movies. He even did a video saying like was there ever really a video game curse? And like a lot of people bring up examples like the Pokemon anime, for example, and it's like, all right, there is an argument to be had there, but you can't deny that most video game adaptations, most of the good ones, were very far and few between. And I feel like that's been changing recently because we had the Castlevania anime, which is really good, and then you had that Cyberpunk anime. Now you could argue that Cyberpunk is more based off the tabletop game than it is the video game, but still, you had that. That was really good. And now you have The Last of Us, which not only was a success critically, but also financially and with the fans as well. I feel like this is the first video game adaptation to find a good balance between all three, between the critics, the fans, and the general audience. And like you watch the show and you understand why. Great writing, great characters, very deep and emotional storytelling, much like the game itself. Like it's full of things that separate it from the game. They do some things that are different from the game, but they also stay very true to the game itself. Like a perfect, like the first episode, in my opinion, is just a perfect example of how you adapt a video game because like it was different enough to stand on its own and be its own adaptation, but it was still able to stick close enough to the game to feel like the game. Like that's I feel like, that first episode was amazing. And like yeah, like The Last of Us in general is just an amazing adaptation. It really did strike the balance between being an adaptation and being able to do things differently enough but also staying close to the source material, and it should definitely be commended for it, and it deserves all the success and all the praise that it has gotten.
Agreed. Yeah. I have been a pretty big Last of Us fan for a few years now, and so for me, I was looking forward to this just because I I had a good feeling. Like I was open to the idea that it might not work out, but I was feeling good about it. Craig Mazin, the showrunner and like one of the main writers on the show, he did the Chernobyl limited series for HBO, and I really liked that. So I was like, okay, that's a good sign. You can definitely do the tone right. So I was looking forward to that. And then Neil Druckmann had like he had an unprecedented level of creative sway, I guess you could say, because I think he also had like he directly wrote at least one full episode, and then also helped other things, and then was a producer. He directed an episode too, which was cool. It was like his first live action directing job. Um, and for those, I guess I didn't say, for those that don't know, Neil Druckmann was the creator of the Last of Us games, and he was the game director on both as well. And yeah, I'm pretty sure he also helped write the games as well. Um, but but yeah, so I was really looking forward to it. And then who doesn't love Pedro Pascal? So I was like, ooh, yeah, that's great casting right there. And then HBO, Prestige Television. I was like, okay, well, I'm liking what they're cooking. Let's see what happens. But yeah, so it came out and I really liked it. I think, like you were saying, it's definitely the best adaptation thus far. Not even just in terms of quality, but like also capturing an audience, like capturing. It was perfect because like The Last of Us is the type of game where like if you were playing it and someone was walking by and let's say they're not really much of a gamer, they might be intrigued if they see a cutscene. It's like, oh, it's like a movie. But then like once you start playing again, if it's like a long gameplay section, like they may get bored, but like the story they might be intrigued by, and so they might be willing to like watch gameplay or something. But as, like, just being a show, like, the story was already there, the story was already interesting, so being able to just, like, give people the story and let them have, like, a different vehicle to, like, sit through it by, feel like was just, like, the perfect way to go about it. And it's funny because I remember years back when there was like rumors of like a Last of Us movie happening or something, people would say like, "But why? The games are basically already a movie." Which like in terms of like video games, like yeah, all the Naughty Dog games kind of are like at least like the more recent ones like Uncharted and The Last of Us. But I feel like this adaptation kind of did prove that they're definitely, even though they are very cinematic, just playing them, there's definitely some sort of appeal to it just being like in a long form, like televised or like film state, as opposed to being like in just like a video game state. But yeah, I really liked it. I think they did as good of a job as you could of adapting the story and the pacing. I know some people have mixed feelings on the pacing, but I thought it was fine. I liked it. I liked how every episode was kind of like every episode. It was the whole series, the whole season was structured like the game was. They just had to like they just kind of took each episode as just kind of like a section of the game, so that was cool. Um, but yeah, so it was fun as someone who's played the games to sit and watch and be like, I wonder what they're gonna change, and seeing like little changes here, little changes there. Some like the biggest change being the Bill and Frank episode, but like some changes here, some changes there, and then like other changes where like you're not sure if they're gonna do it or not. Like for like a split second, I was wondering like, are they gonna change Sam and Henry's fate? Nope, still sad. Okay, never mind. Or like the ending of the game where like how much are they gonna keep? And the ending was pretty like as close as you could make it, I would say. So yeah, it was really cool to experience it in like a slightly different way, be able to like introduce people that like aren't gamers in your life that like you might have wanted to show them, but like they weren't really interested in a video game. But like now it's like, ooh, it's like it's the zeitgeist. It's the new cool show. Like watch it, and then they're like, wow, this is actually pretty good, and then getting them into it and stuff like that. So it's been just a really interesting um I guess, event to live through, and just overall quality of the show and everything. Like, I really, really liked it. So, I guess for starters, did you guys have a favorite episode?
So, like, because like thinking back of my time watching it, man, that first episode was just so good. And I know I already praised it in my like initial thoughts on the show, but god damn, that first episode just so well done. Like I remember the after the first episode came out, like I after I'd watched it, I was like, oh my god, that was so good. Like I was still thinking about it like the next day. I was like, man, I gotta watch this again. Like I was excited to watch it again. Like that's how great it was. But there's still a handful of not a handful, but like there's still plenty of other episodes that were also really good. Because like you mentioned the Bill and Frank episode. Now the Bill and Frank episode was interesting to me because when I first watched it, I didn't know how to feel about it. And that I just want to say at the bat, it has nothing to do with the relationship between Bill and Frank because if you've played the video game, you know that Bill is gay and you know that he had a relationship with Frank at one point. So that shouldn't have come as a surprise to anyone that's played the game. The part that I took issue with was because we're talking about adaptations and how adaptations are going to change things. Well, by the time Joel and Ellie got to Bill and Frank's place, they were dead. Bill was dead. And in the game, when you get to the Bill section, there's a lot of like back and forth banter between Bill and Ellie. Ellie just keeps getting on Bill's nerves, and it's kind of funny, honestly. And when I heard that they cast Nick Offerman as Bill, I was like, oh man, that's gonna be so fun to see like the back and forth banter between Bella Ramsey and Nick Offerman. But then we don't get that because Bill's dead by the time that Joel and Ellie get there, and I was kind of disappointed about that. But in the end, it's really not that because people will say, well, if you want to experience that, well, then you just go play the game. And it's like true, I can go play the game if I want to experience like how it is in the game. But the difference is Nick Offerman isn't playing Bill in the game, so like but you know it's a big change, but I like the changes that the Bill and Frank episode made because how their relationship turned out in that episode was beautiful and just the complete opposite of how it is in the game. In the game, it's awful. Like Frank leaves a oh, go ahead. You got
I
something to
was
say?
gonna. I just wanted to add real quick. Yeah, I never thought I'd be crying over people eating strawberries.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so good.
Yeah, and then don't even get me. Like I said, we talked about this earlier, when we weren't recording the podcast. But like, just the part where Frank is telling Bill, "This is my last day, and here's what you're gonna do for me. You're gonna do." And I was like, "Oh no!" Like, oh man, I'm getting teary eyed watching this. Like, but that's a beautiful episode, and like in the game it's awful in the game because not only does like Bill and Frank's relationship end in a bad way, but Frank pretty much leaves Bill a letter saying that he hates Bill, that he hates his guts, and that he hopes everything in the world then that he hopes that everything awful will just happen to him. And then we find out later that Frank hangs himself. It's just awful. And then Bill is just a miserable person in the games. So like I was really happy to see the change in the show, because like it was just a much better change. It was it was great. The Bill and Frank episode was great. And then like while we're talking about changes, like you were saying earlier, Rudy, I was really hoping that they were going to change the Henry and Sam story, because the Henry and Sam story is so freaking sad in the games, but nope, they kept it the same. What about you, Miranda? Do you have any favorite episodes?
Yeah, I did like the third episode with Bill and Frank. That was cool to see. I don't know anything about the game, so I didn't know about the relationship in the games, but I'm glad they changed that, because we don't need more sad stories like that. So it's good that they like gave them full lives and happiness and strawberries. For a favorite episode, I mean, I guess the is it Sam and Henry? Those two episodes. I liked those ones. It was nice to see like another kid around, so like Ellie could have a friend and stuff, and then like like the side plot or the main plot, I guess, of the woman hunting them down was kind of interesting. And then at the end of the episode of the two episodes, all the clickers attacking them, that was pretty cool to see, just because like be like, yeah, by the way, there are creatures in this show. It's not just like them running around. There is like an actual thing going on with like mushrooms or cordyceps, right? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So
we got to see the bloater. It's so cool. He got to rip someone
Loader
just
was
like
awesome.
this
Yeah.
same animation as the game. It was cool.
Can we take a moment to appreciate the effects for like the clickers and the bloater, because those were all practical effects, no CGI. So I love practical
Mm,
well,
effects.
that's not true. Yeah.
Well, for the
kind of.
clickers, yeah,
They
they use.
definitely
No.
they used makeup and they used prosthetics and everything, and they filmed them on location. They had people running around. But then like if you do like big wide shots, they're putting like CGI clickers in there. But they did spend a lot of time doing practical effects, getting people on set, getting people who are properly like acting how they want the clickers to act. Specifically, I watched the making of video, and
Hold on a sec, guys. I'll be right back.
Hey there, listeners. It looks like we had to take a quick break. So if there's a little bit of disjointedness in the edit here, I just wanted to say that we had to take a quick moment away from the mic. So no worries. Back to the regularly scheduled program now.
All right, sorry about that. I had to help with
Now
something.
you're good.
But so really quickly to circle back then, so the part from episode 2 where they encounter a clicker for the first time, that was CGI then? Or
no, that
part of
was
it was
practical.
CGI? Because that was what I was
That was
referring to
practical.
when I was talking about them using practical effects.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that part I believe was practical. They had a guy on set with makeup and all that. That was practical. Um
Okay.
but there is like CGI elements in there, like the Sam and Henry episode where they are in the cul-de-sac. Like
Yeah.
there's so many clickers there that you can't get that many people on
I was
set,
just about to say
especially
that.
because yeah,
Yeah.
especially because they filmed during COVID, although that's still happening. So um restrictions probably were uh a lot more restrictions were probably happening at the time of filming. Um so they used CGI in that, like the little girl. Um they had practical makeup on her, but in the edit they decided to change that. So they changed the way the cordyceps looked on her face, so you could see more of her face and have her hair. So it's like, oh, it is a little girl. And then that way when she attacks the one lady. They had a CGI double of her, so they could make her do whatever they wanted. So that's why they like included that. But there is tons of practical stuff in the show, which is fantastic because it means they're taking time. They're doing practical stuff, which means they're making the things so they have the texture. So when they do CGI stuff, they can scan that stuff and have very detailed versions of it. So like everything starts with the practical. Because without that, it's really hard to make something out of nothing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool. And yeah, obviously for the scenes where they have like a whole ton of like you just mentioned that one episode where like the army of zombies literally just comes out of the ground. Like they're probably going to use CGI for that, which yeah, I understand that. But speaking of like practical effects and like CGI, so the giraffe for the giraffe scene in the last episode, I guess that was a real giraffe, but there was people online that thought it was CGI, which I thought was kind of funny.
yeah, it's very interesting because I could not tell if it was a real giraffe and a fake set or a fake set and
And a
a
real giraffe.
real giraffe and a fake set, and a
Oh,
fake giraffe and a real set.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Because something about it was just a little disjointed, but it's cool that they like used a real giraffe because it's easier to do buildings in CGI than it is animals or people. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another like element from that one second Sam and Henry episode that was like mixed was so they made like a fully realized bloater. It was like a big, tall, buff guy in like a cool bloater suit that was fully detailed, fully painted. It looked amazing. But in the actual show, that's just like the full VFX model. So like they liked how the suit looked, like it looked amazing on camera. But the thing was like because he had a little bit more limited movement. Obviously, you couldn't like do like the head ripping and that stuff. Like that would have been too much for that suit. So they ended up just using like the footage they got as lighting source reference kind of, and then like movement reference, and then just expanded upon that. And so what you see in the show is just the fully 3D model, but they were just able to use like the footage they got of the guy in the suit to like really help make it look better. And I think it worked. But yeah, so like you were saying, I do believe in like how Miranda also confirmed the first episode of Receipt Clickers. There might be like some slight cleanup that's VFX, but I would say it's like vast majority just practical effects. But yeah, awesome that they actually did like fully realized practical effects. It wasn't just like little things here and there. Like clickers were clickers, like the bloater was a bloater, like fully did all of that, and it looked really cool.
Yeah, props to the actors for like getting the movements down because I feel like it would be kind of hard to like move around like a clicker. So major
One
kudos there.
one of my favorite like little stories from like interviews that I was watching with like Pedro and Bella was that they were like it was kind of funny in between takes. Like they were kind of they had to be like kind of taken care of like the clicker actors were because like they couldn't see anything because like the prosthetic was like covering their face. So in between takes, they'd be like being guided by the hand of like, oh, come here, come here, come here. Like they're very like frail creatures because they couldn't see, so they couldn't go anywhere. So in between takes, they were like standing there just like smoking a cigarette or something, but like can't see, or just kind of like leaning or something, or doing whatever, or, like being led around by their hand because they couldn't see. So I thought that was kind of funny. Like just imagining that would be pretty funny.
Yeah, I always like that about zombie shows, how like when they're taking breaks, like in The Walking Dead, for example, you got all the people dressed up as zombies, then they're taking a break. So a zombie just pulls out a water bottle and just starts drinking it.
Imagine being like a zombie and then going to Starbucks and be like, oh hey, what's up?
Okay, really random fact, but I guess on the set of The Last of Us, they weren't allowed to call them zombies. So
They're infected.
they're infected, I guess. But yeah, I just think that's kind of funny as well. It's just like, no, they're not zombies.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're not like like they're not Walking Dead zombies. They don't like eat brains, right? They're just infected by the mushroom
Yeah, I think the
yeah, the
thingy.
goal
cordyceps.
is, yeah, they don't really eat other people. The goal is just to spread the infection, I think. Like
Mm,
make new bodies to spread the infection to, or to bite to spread the infection.
mm. Yeah, the way they spread an infection is gross. I don't like the tendril things out of the
Yeah.
mouth, like
Oh
tests.
yeah.
That was a
Let's
big
let's
nope for
talk about
me.
that because that happens at the end of the second episode, and I don't know about you guys, but I thought that was dumb. The kiss, like I thought
Yeah.
that was so dumb. Like I was
It
like,
was
oh my god,
gross.
this is why is this in here? Like I understand why it's in there, I guess, because I guess the the zombie was trying to spread the infection, right? That's why he kissed
Yeah.
Tess. But it just looked dumb, man. It's like this. Why is it like? It felt like previous like video game adaptations. Like that's how bad I. That's how bad it felt to me. Like it felt like this
Like,
was like a mid 2000s like video game adaptation. Just in that scene. The episode itself was good. I liked the
yeah.
episode, but just that scene was just awful. I hated it.
Yeah. That was probably my least favorite part of the entire show. Um, Yeah, just because it felt so not only just so unnecessary and, like, I am sorry, I hate the cliche of, like, someone's trying to light a lighter and it's like, "Oh, no, it's not working. Oh, no. Oh, no, it's not lighting. Oh, no. Oh, no." And then finally, like, in the last possible moment, it lights, like, it's just like, "Okay, we get it. We've seen this 100,000 times. Just let's just can you just have a lighter work in, like, in a moment of need? Like, 'Oh, this is my trusty lighter. Oh, no, it's not working for some reason because the plot demands it.' Like, just light. Please, just light." But also, like, it was just so weird, like, all the infected are, like, running in, blah, 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 and then, like, they're all just avoiding her, and finally you get this one that just, like, zones in on her instead of, like, charging her, tackling her or something, slowly walks to her and then just, like, kisses her. Like, why? I feel like it'd be more like, not because I need to see this happen on screen, like, I didn't want to see any of this happen anyway, but, like, why not like, why is he not, like, viciously attacking her and he's slowly, like, walking towards her and then, like, kisses her, and then just it's gross, but also just, like, it just feels so weird, and it's just like, you could have just avoided this if just, like, as soon as they break through or, like, she's, like, chasing through the hall, like, let's say she goes upstairs, like, throws lighter, boom, big explosion, covers the whole dome, she's good, whatever. I don't know, like, any like, a number of different ways they could have gone about it, but just very weird. Yes, Miranda.
um, from my vague memory, if it's right, they have the Last of Us podcast, which the showrunners talk about, and
Yeah,
I think they mentioned like they already can sense she's infected.
infected.
So I think it's
Yeah,
more of like instead of like a rushing to infect this, it's more like hmm, is this person part of our gang? Seems familiar. Like, and that's why it's like more of a curious thing, although they could do without the kissing
Is
gross.
this person a part of our gang? Let me make out with her to find out.
Yeah.
Like what?
That wasn't really needed. Also, in the first episode with the old lady, and then everyone was like, "Oh, that's the person's hair that she's eating." Nope,
yeah.
that's the weird mushroom
Those are the
things.
tendrils, yep.
So,
Oh man. Oh, go
and
ahead.
so, I don't know how the cordyceps are presented in the game, other than the fact that I know you have to use like gas masks and stuff because it's like in the
Their
air.
spores. Yeah.
Um, so I think treating it like the way they did in the show was pretty good because I don't want to know I guess it would be more realistic, I guess, because if it's in the air, anyone can get affected at any time, like kind of thing. So it's like I thought it was a good switch, but I don't know. I didn't play the game. So what did you guys think of like that switch on how they work?
Like, the way that it works in the games, it's usually, like, it's just, like, in contained areas where it's, like, the spores, like, well, you can be out and about without a gas mask and you're okay.
Mhm.
But if you're, like, a heavily infected building, there's gonna be, like, spores just, like, in the building, so you mask up for that and then you're fine.
Okay.
Um, I kinda do wish they had stuck with the spores, especially because I saw an article that they might actually end up doing spores in the 2nd season, so it's just like, why didn't you just do it to begin with? It feels weird to just do it now. I wasn't, like, the biggest fan of the tendril thing, like, it was creepy, it's gross, I don't like it. It's an interesting alternative, I guess, but, I would have preferred they just stuck to the original, um games, like just doing spores, and then they wear gas masks every so often. I remember Dan and I were talking about this one time where I'm sure part of the reason was like, oh, well, they didn't want like the actors had to be like swapping gas masks in and out. It's like, but they could still like perform through their eyes. I don't know. You wanted to say something?
Do you think they probably switched it because it would be too close to like COVID and everyone masking up? Do you think maybe that had an influence on the switch?
I
So
wouldn't
you bring
Maybe.
more.
I wouldn't say so because with COVID, those were like medical masks. You
Yeah,
know,
but like
these are
I don't know,
gas
I'm just
masks.
thinking here. So
Yeah, no, I get it, I get it. Yeah, no, of course. But yeah, it's like Udi was saying in the game, like there's just a huge colony of spores and they spread through the air, but only in those clustered colonies. Because like Hudi was saying, if you're just out and about, you're not going to get infected. And yeah, like that was the popular theory, and like not only just between in the conversation that me and Udi had, but just online in general. People were saying, oh, they don't want them to be wearing the gas masks all the time, so that's why they didn't do it. But if what Udi says is true, and they are going to do spores in season 2, then yeah, why didn't you just do that from the start? That doesn't make any sense to me. But whatever.
Oh, what were you gonna say, Miranda?
if they were to do the spores, would it like how would they show that on film though? Like how would they show it? Would it be like green like smoke? Because then I feel like it would get into the cheesy bad movie adaptations from video games type thing. But
In the
go ahead.
in the games, it just kind of looks like when like there's like sunlight coming through your window and then you see like a bunch of like floating kind of like dust and stuff.
Mhm.
It looks like that in the game, just like bigger flakes, I guess you could call, or spores, I guess.
Yeah, it looks
So
Okay.
like little dots just floating around in the air. So I imagine that's
yeah,
how they would do it in the show.
Mhm.
it's just like it's kind of like it has like it's kind of smoky, and then you see like all the particulates like floating around. But yeah, I feel like it wouldn't be. I feel like it would look fine. It would look normal as long as they explain like, oh no, we got to mask up because there's spores in here, and then you see that like okay, there's spores, and then that's it. Um, but I guess like the way they could explain it away in the second season and beyond, if they do add spores, is that maybe the cordyceps evolved to try to be able to like infect easier or something. But to me, it just feels silly. Like they didn't do it for whatever reason they decided, and then they're like, maybe we should do it. And then, but again, I guess we'll have to wait and find out to see if they do it or not. But that's just like an article I saw, so we'll find out, I guess. But um, so I wasn't like the biggest fan of the tendrils. Again, like I felt like it was a little unnecessary, but it was fine. Like I wasn't fully against it. The one change that was actually kind of cool, although to me it kind of they kind of explained it away, and I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever. I did like one aspect of it. It just raised a lot of other questions for me. Um, I liked that, like, it was a network because that's how mushrooms are in real life. There's just, like, underground, like, miles of networks of different, fungi and things like that. So I thought that was cool that they did that where if you, like, step on, um, what is it? Not a is it a vine considered technically a vine
Well, just
or just
cordyceps
part of the
just growing
network?
out of the ground. Like if you,
Okay.
yeah.
If you like interact with like one of those, one of like the networks, it can trigger the infected in like an area, and then all of a sudden you have like a swarm coming at you. So I thought like that was cool, especially because like in the second episode with Tess, like seeing that whole wave of infected coming towards them, I was like, oh my gosh, like what are they gonna do? That's it's like so many. Initially, for me, it was the thing of like, okay, then how are you gonna have like one-off skirmishes? Because if you attack infected in like one building, how are they not alerting others? But I think the way they explained it, or the way that I remember at least, is that like individual units aren't like directly connected to the network, but like if you interact with the network, like the underground network that's coming through the ground, then it senses them and then it sends the others that way. But like they're not directly connected to the network, I guess. So that's how it made sense. But
Yeah, I always interpreted it that way as well because in that scene they make it seem like, oh, they killed one infected and that's what alerted the other infected. But no, they killed the infected and when it died, it disturbed the cordyceps on the ground and that's what alerted the horde. So, yeah, I was a little confused by that at first as well.
So it's like in Stranger Things in the Upside Down. You step on one vine, and all of a sudden you got all of Vecna's army or whatever attacking you.
Those
Yeah.
bats, those weird little bats coming after you.
So just going all the way in the Wayback Machine, did you finish your thoughts on your favorite episodes, Miranda?
Like I was saying, I like this Henry and Sam story. I think it's very sad. I like the fact that they included the little boy. Is that Sam or Henry?
Sam, I
Okay.
think. Oh wait, am
The
I right, Udi? Is it Sam who's the little brother and Henry's the big brother, or is it the other
I
way
think
around?
so. I
Oh
I feel
no.
silly. I can't remember.
Well, either way, the little brother. I like the fact that changed the story a bit, so they have him as a deaf character, and I believe the little boy is deaf. And then they had C.J. Jones, I think. I think that's his name.
The little boy is Sam, and then the older brother is Henry.
Okay. So yeah, Sam, and they like have him. They changed it so he's deaf, and then so I like that inclusion in there too, because then it shows another like what would it be like if someone was deaf, and how would they survive in this zombie apocalypse or mushroom apocalypse, since they're not zombies. So I like that, and just like the relationship Sam and Ellie have, and then the fact that she just tries to help him is like she just wants to help, and it's really heartbreaking that it didn't work. So I say like those two, that story arc is probably one of my favorites in the show.
Yeah, that was another interesting change they did from the game, is because Sam isn't deaf in the game, so it was a really interesting and cool change to make him deaf in the show. And man, I gotta think that'd be terrifying to be like deaf in that situation. You know, at least I think it would be pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I wear glasses, and so if I lost my glasses, I'm pretty sure like I would be done for. I can't see anything at all. So it's like, are you stepping on a branch or are you stepping on the cordyceps? So it's just interesting to like explore a bit of like how would people with a disability like function in this world. Which I don't think anyone in the show has glasses, which slightly irritates me. But it's like
Yeah,
people have glasses all the time. But
us glasses wearing people needed more representation in this show.
They all died off. The glasses wearers were the first to
Yeah.
go.
maybe.
I was gonna say, because you know how in the first episode, and this happens in the game as well, when they're driving down the street and they see that family, and like Tommy's about to stop, and then Joel's like, no, 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 just keep going. Like if the world ever does go to crap one day, I'm definitely gonna be one of the first people to go, because that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop at the side of the road to help someone, and they're gonna be like raiders or whatever, and they're gonna kill me and take my car.
But you just gotta stick, at least initially, while you figure what's going on. You stick with like your core people, and then maybe you like, oh hey, come join our little commune.
You
But
have to have a safe spot. Be like, if
yeah,
something does happen, where do you go? Like, do you have your like copies of your documentation? Like, this is all like real survival stuff. Is people have copies of their documentation, so license and stuff, and they put that in like a bag in case you got to get out of your house fast. If there's a fire, you need to get your stuff. Or like, do you have like an emergency supply kit in your car? So like, do you have your jumper cables? Do you have like an extra water bottle? Like, um, I think it would have been interesting to see that stuff, but they did the time jump, so we don't really get to see the de-evolve of Society of 2003. De-evolution? That's not it. I don't know what word I'm trying to say, but like the downfall of like
yeah,
stuff.
civilization.
Yeah.
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 So like was Joel prepared? Like, what type of person was he? Did he have this stuff prepared?
Really quickly, another aspect of the show that I wanted to bring up that I thought was really cool that the games don't explore is the time before, or not really before, but as like the infection or as the outbreak is happening. Like we get to see how things were a little bit before in the first episode, but then in the second episode they have that one like doctor or whatever in Thailand being like taken in by the army or whatever to examine like a dead infected patient. Like I thought that stuff was very interesting, and I really appreciated how the show did that because that's something that the games didn't really explore at all, and it was really cool to see.
Yeah, that was that aspect. I was gonna bring that up when I got to my episodes. That aspect of the show, the intro to the first episode, to like the pilot, and the second episode, were some of my favorite moments in the entire show. Like the eeriness and the dread that you get from both of them is so well
Oh
done.
yeah. Okay, because you were talking about the eeriness and the dreadfulness, like in the very like in the first episode, the very beginning, how it's in the '60s and they're having that like talk show, and then that one guy goes, "Well, if there's ever a fungi infection, that's it, game over. We lose," and like the entire crowd just gets like super silent, and then like that one guy's like, "Oh, okay," like cut to commercial or whatever. It's like, oh man, you like that? That really does a good job of building up that dread. And I love the scene in the first episode where Sarah is at the neighbor's house and she's like helping them make cookies, I think, and then she's like looking at the movie and you just see out of focus in the background like the old lady just like twitching and whatnot, and you could obviously see that there's something wrong with her, but like Sarah's not noticing that. That was so well done. And then afterwards you just got the dog like staring at the old lady just whining. Like, oh, that was so well done. I love that scene. It's so well done.
Yeah, the dog starts staring at the old lady, and I was like, nope, something's gonna go wrong. This is gonna go
Yeah,
wrong.
exactly.
It's not. This is not good.
Oh
I
man, so
do
good.
know like how the game like starts. A family member of mine was playing it, and as they were playing it, I was watching, and I was like, nope, I can't do this. This is too stressful. It's too much. And the show throughout all the episodes, especially the eighth episode, um, there was just parts where I was like, nope, I cannot do this. So they definitely like are good with creating that like dread and that like fear, but then they're also really good at making these like happy, beautiful moments, like with the mall episode with Ellie and I don't remember the other girl's
Riley.
name, with Riley, and then like we've mentioned before, the Bill and Frank episode. So
I think ultimately that's why I love this IP so much, is because, like, yeah, the clickers and the design of everything, like the tone, like, there's so many interesting things that I love about this IP. But at the end of the day, like, the core thing that I love is just how, like, human, like, every story that you come across is. Like, obviously, like, yeah, it's about people, duh, but I just love, even again, going back to that moment in the Bill and Frank episode, something as simple as eating strawberries. Like, you haven't had strawberries in years because of like a terrible thing that happened in the world, blah blah. And just trying strawberries again for the first time in years. Like, we take that for granted every time we have a strawberry. And it's like I can't imagine being in a situation where like it's almost impossible, like, oh no, we can never have strawberries again. And then your partner that you're in love with finds a way to grow strawberries. You can have them one more time. Like, God, it's just so good. And yeah, it just like there's so many ups and downs in The Last of Us IP. There's a lot of downs, but um, I think it makes the brighter moments shine even like stronger, and that's why. So like my favorite episodes. So I love the pilot. But the pilot is chef's kiss, like amazing. Loved it. Um, Loved the intro to the second episode. Loved the third episode. Uh, I love the Sam and Henry little arc. I would say The second episode in that arc was my favorite, just because again, like at the end, like the infect, like it was just like a great episode, but like getting to see the infected and all that was really cool. And then I mean I like Left Behind as well, the episode with Riley and Ellie. Good lord, I don't know how I was blanking on it.
Couldn't remember Ellie's name.
I was like Bella, 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 and I was like, no, that's the actress's name, like actress name. And
You
then
call yourself a Last of Us fan. I'm
I
just kidding. I'm
know
kidding.
I'm a fake fan over here. Um, but yeah, and then I like the ending. Like the ending isn't my favorite, but I think they did as good of a job as you could adapting the ending of the game, so I do like that. But yeah, even just like going back to episode 3, like that, as far as I can remember, I it's been a hot minute since I fully replayed the first and the second game, but I think, yeah, like including the show into like its own kind of side canon, it's like the only time I can think of that someone actually won in like the world of The Last of Us, because Bill and Frank got a happy ending. Like there's happy moments in The Last of Us, in the games and whatnot, but like there aren't really very many happy endings ever. And so like that was just like such a beautiful moment of they got to go out on their own terms. They got to live out a life together. They got to build a life together, and so I really liked that episode. And oh god, as soon as they started playing On the Nature of Daylight, once Frank was like, "Give me one more perfect day," I was like, "I hate you guys so much." I was like one of my favorite like pieces of musical score ever. It's so freaking sad, and I was like, "God, you guys suck." But it's so well done. Um, and then yeah, like the pilot. I think my favorite part of the intro in the game, and then also in the pilot, is like the outbreak scene once they're like running out and they're trying to like figure out where to go, and then especially in the show, my favorite part I think is when like they're driving through downtown, like you hear the music swelling, and then like you see the plane coming down, and then they're like, okay, go, 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 and then just like crashes and blows up behind them. It's just so intense. It's so good. Love that part, and then obviously the super sad part when Sarah dies. Ah, it's so good, so sad, so well done. Um, and then yeah, and then the ending. Because we already talked a lot about like the Sam and Henry thing, so I don't really feel like I need to talk about that. But the ending of the show, um, I guess I'll just open it up. Like, what did you guys think of the ending? I know, I mean, Dan, you played the game, but like, what did you guys think?
Well, in terms of like an adaptation of the games, like I thought the ending they adapted the ending pretty like they followed the game pretty closely, but the ending had some like pretty like holy crap moments. Like I just think back to that one part. And I believe this happened in the games as well, but just like seeing it happen in the show was just it's the part where Joel kills Marlene, where she's like, "Please, just let me live" or whatever, and he's like, "No, you'll just go after her." And bang, like, oh man, like that was hardcore, like holy crap. But like, we've had this discussion before, and I'm really curious what your take is on this, Miranda, since you've never played the games before. How do you feel about the decision that Joel made in the ending? Do you think he's justified, or do you think he's in the wrong?
It's an interesting question. um, well, ultimately it should be Ellie's choice. They should have told her what was going on. They shouldn't have tricked her into going into quote unquote surgery, aka death. Um, I I get why Joel basically murders literally everybody except the two nurses. Um, to save Ellie, because like that's his daughter. He's gonna do whatever it takes to make sure she's alive and safe. So I think for his character, he did what was very like in line with his character. But like they should have told her. I don't know. Maybe they should have been like, okay, when you're 18, you've lived some more years, you've processed the trauma because she's gone through quite a bit of stuff. Then let her have the choice. But now she won't be able. Well, I don't know what happens in the second game, but now she won't even have that choice because like Marlene is dead now. So does that make sense?
Yeah. I do want to add that just like as an element that I feel like people don't think about much is that like even in real life, like when the pandemic happened, like there were studies done and it's like kids that have gone through the pandemic are more mature than ones previously at the same age because they had to deal with like the stresses and the anxieties and all of that went on at that time. And so yeah, she's 14, and either way, regardless of anything, that's a horrific thought that like she'd have to sacrifice herself for like the world to go on. But I think it's a little unfair to Ellie, like Ellie's character, to be like, oh well, she's just a 14-year-old girl. She's a 14-year-old girl, but she's lived a life, a crazier life than like most people like ever probably. So I feel like that is like one thing that to consider at least of like it doesn't make it any less worse, but at the same time, or any less bad, I mean, but at the same time, like she isn't just like a 14-year-old girl. Like she definitely has lived life. But Dan and I actually were talking about this recently, and I do feel like they did a better job in the game of because in the game they definitely make it more of like a thing of like it's her wish, like, that's what she wants to do. She wants to heal the world because it's her purpose. It was, like, the one purpose that she was given, the one chance she has to do something right in the world. And you don't really get many chances like that in this world. And so they definitely make it of, like they make it her decision that, like, she wants to go through with it, and then the twist being that Joel, like, he can't live without his new proxy or daughter. Would proxy make sense?
I mean, it's his daughter in a
Yeah,
sense. I
yeah,
mean, that's why he did what he did.
yeah. And so it just becomes more of like the he kind of took her decision away because he was selfish and also doomed the world because he was
Mm.
selfish. But it's like
Okay.
it's one of those things of like he did it for love and all this other stuff. But what do you want to say? Sorry.
Maybe it would be different if they like showed that in the show. Like if it was her choice in the game, like that's what she wants to do. They don't really talk about it. They just are like you have to get to the fireflies. And that's it. I mean, it's kind of touched on a bit like in the last episode, but like so I guess that would change how the last episode plays out because then I guess if it was her choice, he's taking that choice away and that's selfish. So
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk about like so you mentioned that you felt that the games did it better in terms of like conveying that it was Ellie's choice from the get-go to want to do that because she felt like it was her purpose. Well, one thing I felt that the show did do a little better than the games, and this is just me personally, is it really helped me understand why Joel did what he did. Because when I played the games for the first time and I got to the ending, I just didn't understand it. I was like, Joel, this isn't your daughter. What are you doing? Why are you dooming the world to like have the one chance that it has at getting a cure? What is wrong with you? Like this isn't your daughter. Like I didn't really like understand it. But then there's one line that they get do in the show that made me realize, okay, I somewhat understand it now. And it's the one part where Joel is talking to Ellie and he tells her about how he almost killed himself. And that and then he said, it's sometimes it just comes down to like one thing that can help you make it through. And then he looks at Ellie and he's like, and I found that one thing. And he's pretty much just telling Ellie she is the reason for him to want to keep going, to want to keep continuing. And like I was like, okay, like I understand why you did what you did now. I don't agree with it at all. Like Udi was saying, what he did was selfish. He doomed millions of lives just for one. But you also got to look at it as it's just such a hard decision to even think about because like I'm thinking about what if that was my like own like biological daughter and like there was a sickness that was infecting the world and like the only way for a vaccine to be made was to sacrifice my daughter because like her blood or whatever will like had the cure in it, like I don't even know what I would do in that situation. Like it's such a hard thing to think about. Like, I wouldn't even know what I would do.
It's the ultimate trolley problem.
Yeah.
I think like the thing for me ultimately again is that like again they didn't do a great job of illustrating this in the show, but it's just again that like in the game it is really her decision. Like it's what she wants. Like they do touch on it like a little bit in the show, and then also kind of like in the second Sam and Henry episode, like at the end where she feels very like driven at that point of like okay, let's go. Like we have a mission to accomplish. Like I need to get there so we can get this thing going. But like other than that, and like a little bit of before like the ending, they didn't really touch on it being her decision. But because like yeah, like it's hard to contemplate no matter what. But like Joel wasn't really playing an act. He wasn't really an active participant in the ending until he interfered. He was more of a passive um, part of the ending because like at least in the game like that's her decision like she knows like if like that's what it takes like that's she's willing to do whatever it means to bring to end the infection and to like to prevent any more Rileys or Sarahs from happening in the world like she just wants to complete the mission but that's her choice uh, and then Joel, he can't live with that, and he isn't really doing anything. It's just more of like I guess it's like the decision to act or not to act. His decision to act would be killing everyone and getting her out of there, or his decision not to act would be letting her go through with her decision, and then they make a vaccine and everything. And like on the one hand, I'm not saying because you can't really know until you would be in that put into that position, and it's your own kid. So I'm not saying like this is what I'm saying, whatever, blah blah. But like a possible situation of like a possible viewpoint, I guess, is it would it's hard to even fathom it all. But the one other viewpoint that Joel could have had is yeah, she's gonna die to save the world. But every single day living in that world, that like revived world where humanity's making a comeback and society's making a comeback, every day it would be like you'd be living in her miracle. Every single day you get to see the beauty of the sacrifice that she made so that that could happen again. And I feel like that would be it would be such a hard thing to do to like to live through, but it would be such a beautiful reminder of every single day. Like this is like kind of like the love that she had that she wanted to bring like she wanted to save the world and she got a chance to do that. And like I feel like it's kind of interesting too, kind of connecting like the comic book thing back of like so she kind of like superheroes like that would have been her superhero moment. She would have gotten to save the world, and no one else could do it because no one else is immune. And so getting that chance stripped away, like aside from just dooming all of humanity, it's just so monstrous. And like I don't know how Joel lives with himself, like, after doing that, like, how do you live with the guilt of knowing that you prevented humanity from being saved? Like, having the one chance to save it. And again, it's like also it's like, okay, like how do you live with like letting your daughter sacrifice yourself to do that? But it's also it's like it's her decision. It's not your decision to have or to make. But yeah, it's definitely not that's that's what I love about this ending. Like I it's hard to say that there is a correct answer because you wouldn't know until you're put in that position. But I just love
Exactly.
all the dialogue that comes out of it.
Yeah. What did you say earlier? You said like oh geez, I had a train of thought and I just completely forgot.
All right. What was it about the ending? Like Ellie sacrifice, the vaccine, Riley, Sarah.
Oh, you were saying like how does Joel live with himself, like knowing the decision that he made? Well, they both, I think, in the game and in the show, they established that Joel was not a good person. Like he's not a good person. So he probably has already like made peace with like how he lives with himself, you know? So
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say like he definitely is like a haunted man, but I also feel like most of that is just Sarah, like Sarah's death. So I don't know, but I mean, yeah, I agree. I feel like he's just kind of made peace with the decision making that he does. You guys have any other thoughts on any of the episodes or any aspects?
so the only other thing I want to get your guys' opinion on is so while we're on the subject of the last episode, what did you think of how that episode began? Because once again,
Mm,
I thought the moment at the beginning, another dumb moment, how in the world do you not realize you're having a baby when you're struggling with a zombie? Like, I mean, I've heard that childbirth is one of the most painful experiences a woman can go through, and like come on, like I just didn't buy that opening. I'm sorry. I didn't buy it.
Well, she probably had a bunch of adrenaline going through her body as she was literally fighting off a zombie for her life. Just having a baby in general probably is painful, obviously. Uh, that would make sense. But I think she was more preoccupied with not dying, so that's probably why it just like happened. And it's an interesting way on how like Ellie is immune. I wouldn't say they should try to repeat that, but I guess no one really knows how Ellie was born except Marlene, and now she's dead, so it doesn't even matter. I did like the fact that the Ellie's mom is the girl or woman who plays Ellie in the game.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's cool.
Ashley Johnson. It was kind of surreal, like hearing like Ellie's voice from the game come out of a character that wasn't Ellie.
yeah, definitely a nice touch. Very, very touching sentiment too that like the original Ellie gets to birth the live
Yeah,
action Ellie.
her role
But
was better than Troy Baker's. That was for sure.
yeah, I feel bad for Troy Baker. Troy Baker being the voice actor who played Joel in the games. He was in the David episode. He was like his number one henchman, and he didn't really get to do anything.
He got
Really,
the cleaver in his shoulder, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like,
Hmm.
God dang it, you killed Troy Baker.
it's like Captain America sitting down at the end of Homecoming. It's like, all right, so you killed Troy Baker.
Like I said, I always like to think when that moment happens in the show, I like to think David just looks over and he's like, God dang it, you killed Troy Baker. Why did you do that? But yeah, like Ashley Johnson's role felt like a nice little cameo. Like it made sense for her to be Ellie's mother. Like Troy Baker as David's henchman, like I don't understand like why like what's I guess it doesn't need to make sense like cuz like I remember Neil Druckmann saying that like he wanted the voice actors to have actual roles, not just cameos. But like Troy Baker's role just felt random. Like Ashley
Yeah.
Johnson's role felt like they thought about it and were like, okay, this makes sense for her. But
Did
yeah.
you know that Laura Bailey got a little cameo in the final episode?
One of the nurses?
Yeah, she's one of the nurses.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
Had no idea while watching the finale, and then afterwards, there was a funny picture that I think Neil Druckmann tweeted out where she was like next to the doctor's body, and she was like posing like with her
My
fingers,
God.
like boop. It was just funny. But yeah, going back to the beginning of the final episode, I like the idea of it because I guess this was like a fan theory for a while, where like Ellie's mom got infected when she was pregnant with her, and that's how she became immune. But so it's cool that they like confirmed that fan theory. I just felt like it was a little sloppy in execution. Like I would have preferred that like there was fireflies inside the house, but for some reason they were preoccupied or something, and then like she's running towards the house, gets tackled, and like fights it off, kills it, and then they come rushing out like, oh no no no, and then like as opposed to like she's in the house for undisclosed amount of time, and it's like daylight, and then they get to the house and it's been hours clearly because it's nighttime, and she's still somehow not turning yet, and then like I don't know, it just felt a little sloppy. Like I feel like they could have changed it a little bit. Still kept like the same story of like that intro, but just tweaked it to I don't know, feel a little less um out there. I don't know. But I liked it, I guess, like overall, like just like the confirmation and giving Ashley Johnson the chance to be a part of the show. But yeah. And then also shout out to I'm gonna butcher the name, but Gustavo Santayola, the composer for the show. He also did the music for the game. At least he did all of the composing for the first game, and then he was like the main composer for the second game. Or Mac Quayle was like a secondary composer on the second game. But his intro theme or his main theme for The Last of Us Chef's kiss. So good.
Yeah, I always enjoy that when like video game adaptations actually go out of their way to adapt the music for the show or for the movie, and like the theme song for The Last of Us. The Last of Us intro. Let's talk about that real quick. I actually really like the intro for The Last of Us. I like the theme of like all the fungus spreading around, and like it makes a little map of the United States to like symbolize the outbreak. And then I love the ending where you got those like two little silhouettes that rise up out of the ground to represent Joel and Ellie. Like I love The Last of Us intro. It's great. And then yeah, the music they use is ripped right out of the video games. And like I was saying, I just love it when video game movies or shows actually use music from the games. And that's one of the reasons why I'm very much looking forward to the Mario movie, because like if you've seen clips from the Mario movie and you've listened to the music, like literally every piece of music in the Mario movie is just music from the Mario game. So I'm looking forward to that soundtrack.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yes.
the music for the show is pretty good. Like I like it. It's good. The intro is very good. It like makes sense for like the plot and I forgot what I was gonna say. um but yeah, the music is really good and the intro is really good. I think it might be up there with like the Daredevil intro as like favorite TV show intros. So, um that's really cool. I don't know as I've stated several times before, I don't know the game, but if the music in the game is the same as the show, like I bet it just adds a whole nother level to like the dedication of making sure they're doing things correctly in the best way possible and not in just like, oh, this is just a thing we're creating, like the Uncharted thing, where like watching Uncharted, again, not playing, well, I guess I've never played the Uncharted game, so I know nothing about it, but I'm like, oh, this is an exact same like thing. It's like press A here to jump. Like I could see them putting that like graphic overlaying the action in that movie. And in the show of The Last of Us, I never really saw that. I could be like, oh, okay, this is probably where you do go fight or have gameplay here, but there was never a moment in my brain where it's like, this is definitely where you press triangle to do whatever, to throw whatever, to reload the guns or use a health pack or whatever. So I think that probably adds another like level on why it's a good good ad.
Adaptation.
Can you say that again?
Adaptation.
Yes, that. Um, it's very good. It's very entertaining, and I definitely see why people love the games. Will I be playing the game? Probably not, because the PlayStation we have is wonky. But I'm definitely looking forward to season 2, though.
Yeah, all I'll say is I have no idea how they're going to tackle seasons 2 and 3 because they already said they're going to split up the second game into multiple seasons. So no idea what they're going to do or how they're going to do it, but I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and I wanted to say because like you had mentioned Miranda that you were like, "Will I play the game? Probably not." Like, I'm probably gonna go back and replay the first game. Like, I haven't beaten the second game. I like started the second game, but I haven't finished it. But I honestly think I'm just gonna go back, replay the first game, and then I'll probably just I don't want to, but I'll probably just start over with the second game. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely planning on doing a full Last of Us playthrough. Well, I got like the Last of Us Part 1 remake when it came out, and then I got past Billstown, past like the bandits after that. Um, and like I kind of want to restart and just fully like straight through, but I think I'm just gonna start from that point and then power through, finish that, and then do part 2 again. Cause I can't. So like, The Last of Us, so good.
Oh my god. But yeah,
But
no, I definitely, I a very interesting history with The Last of Us, because I remember when that game was first coming out, like when it was first revealed at E3, and I was like, "Oh, this game looks kind of cool." And then my sister's boyfriend at the time had bought over some PlayStation 3 games, and like this was around the time when The Last of Us had just came out. So like he bought over Uncharted, which was what I was really excited to play because I had always wanted to play Uncharted for like the longest time. But he also bought over The Last of Us. I was like, hey, this is a new game that like just came out. I'll try it out. And like I remember playing through the beginning and being very sad after the beginning, and like I didn't play it anymore after that. Like I forget whatever I probably just got preoccupied by playing other games. So like I like didn't play it at all, and then they like remastered it for the PlayStation 4. So I got the remaster on the PlayStation 4, and then I was trying to play through it on the PS4. I was like, I just can't get into this. I don't know. Like I'm just not feeling it because like I just didn't like how like you were limited to the number of resources you could collect, but and I understand why it's like that because it's a survival game. It's more realistic. You can't just get unlimited resources. But I didn't like how the game was holding me back like that. So I was like, I'm just gonna put this back down, and I just never picked it back up again. So it was always a game that I had always started and stopped and just never beat. And then recently, the Last of Us remake on PlayStation 5 came out, which it's kind of controversial because there are some people out there that didn't think it needed to be remade, but I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to give The Last of Us another chance. I'm going to buy the remake on PS5, and then it just clicked. It just clicked with me, and I was like, all right, I understand. Like I'm enjoying this now. Like, and I was actually able to beat it all the way through, and I was like, I get it. Like Miranda was saying, I understand why people like this game so much. It is very good, and once it clicks with you, like you just get fully immersed in it.
I have a question. So you said it got remade. Does that mean that they included the DLC with like Ellie and Riley stuff in the main game and it's not an extra thing?
Well, in the remake, you still gotta like go to the main menu to access the DLC, but it's included in the remake. Like you don't have to
Okay.
buy it separately.
That's how it
Okay.
was on the PS4 remaster as well. Like, because it was like a year after it came out on PS3, they like re-released it, slightly like remastered for PS4, and it also just had like the DLC for Left Behind like on the disc. It's just like you had to go through the main menu to access it.
Okay, so it's not like they changed it and it is part of the main gameplay. Okay.
They should have honestly, because like that Left Behind DLC takes place during the main game, like at one part. So they honestly should have just made it part of the main game, but
Yeah, maybe it was a little bit more restructuring than they wanted to do, which fair,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But
Well, I don't know. It's coming out on PC, so maybe somebody will mod the PC version to like just naturally flow
incorporate it.
into the DLC. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. See how
Gonna
that
be
like
compatible on Steam
feels.
Deck. You have portable Last of Us.
Ooh.
It'd be pretty cool.
I don't know. Should I buy a Steam Deck for playing The
You
Last of Us on the
get a
go?
Steam Deck for portable Last of Us, Sudi.
Do you
No,
think it
I
will ever
shouldn't.
do you think it will ever come to the Nintendo Switch? Because that's the only game system I play.
No,
Unfortunately, I
no.
don't think that's ever gonna happen, Miranda. I'm sorry.
Well, I'll just watch YouTubers play it.
Well, I mean, you guys have anything else you want to say about the Last of Us show?
Mm, I think I've covered every. I think I've covered. I think I've covered everything I wanted to talk about. So I don't have
Yeah.
much more to say.
I mean, I think we've had a pretty long and healthy discussion. We didn't really discuss the David episode, which I felt was kind of a big episode because it was pretty rough, you know, with the stuff that happens in it. But I mean, that's
I
all
don't
you really
know.
need to know is that like it was a rough episode. It was a really rough episode.
They made him
Made
grosser and creepier than he was in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made me very, 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 very uncomfortable, and I hated
Yeah.
every single moment of it.
Yeah. And
So
I also want to say that The Last of
gross,
Us,
uncomfortable.
this
Ugh.
show actually shocked me. This show actually shocked me at times because, like, with the Henry and Sam episode, they straight up just show Henry shoot Sam in the head. like this little boy just shoot him in the
Oh,
head. Like I
yeah.
was like, oh my god. Like, and then like in the David episode, David just goes up and just slaps this little girl. I was like, Jesus, man, like this show actually kind of shocked me at times. I was not expecting them to like show the stuff that they did.
Considering some of the stuff that happens in The Last of Us Part 2, I'm very intrigued to see if they show that or not. But
I
yeah,
think they're well, no, I won't say it.
I'm not gonna get into any details or anything, but yeah,
But
I think that like that almost made it worse in the Sam and Henry episodes, just seeing it and then like having to see the moments after. Uh, God,
Yeah,
like
heartbreaking.
I
no,
was
that was not fun.
yeah,
I
like
did
I
not
said,
like that.
I just couldn't believe some of the stuff that they showed. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. I
But
wonder.
Yeah.
I guess I don't recall anything where they put like warnings at the beginning, but like assuming you've listened to this and haven't watched and you want to watch, definitely like check out like the content warnings on some of it, especially for like episode 8 and then like we mentioned at the end of the Sam and Henry stuff cuz there's just it's uncomfortable and so
I,
just be aware of that.
I just want to say that if you haven't watched this show yet and you've gotten this far, I'm so, we just spoiled the entire thing for you. Like, what are you doing? Like, seriously, you know?
What are you
It's
doing,
okay.
guys? Thanks for
But,
listening, but what the heck?
yeah, no. But yeah, no, I mean, I think we can all agree. Great show. Looking forward to the next season, and I really, really hope that this is the beginning of a turning point for video game adaptations because the Mario movie looks really good. I really hope the Mario movie's good. It looks really good. And then we got like just a whole ton of video game adaptations coming out. We got Amazon is doing a Fallout show. It's doing a God of War show. I think it's doing a Mass Effect show as well.
Hmm.
Henry Cavill is doing a Warhammer 40K show, which once again you could technically say that's more of the tabletop game, not so much the video games. But still, you got that. I think there's a I think there's a Borderlands movie by Eli Roth that's coming out. I kind of don't think that's going to be any good,
Yeah,
but I mean,
no,
you never know. But
maybe,
it's
maybe.
probably not going to be any good. But yeah, I just really hope that this is a turning point for video game adaptations because video games, some of those stories really are very good and they deserve to be told to a wider audience. And if shows like The Last of Us can be viewed and if people who wouldn't normally play video games can experience these stories through watching shows and movies, I'm all for it. And I just want the God of War show to be good. I really hope that's good, man, because I love God of War. And if they screw that show up, I'm going to be very sad.
So you're telling me that your like the turning point for video game adaptations wasn't the Need for Speed, the Oscar-worthy
Oh
Need for
my
Speed
God.
movie
Don't
for you?
freaking Need for Speed movie with Dino. What is it? Dino Mino
Dino
Bambino?
Bambino.
Dino Bambino? No, the Need for Speed movie was sorely lacking in cop chases. That's all I'm going to say.
That's fair. Yeah. It's it's not great. It's a guilty pleasure movie for sure, but it's not
Oh,
great.
yeah.
The car stuff is cool because they actually like
Yeah.
use real like well they use like kit cars, so like they made kit cars and then they had like a special we're getting off topic. Check it out
Yeah,
if you
we are.
want. Doesn't matter. I think we're it's time to wrap this thing up. So
Yeah.
yeah. Any closing thoughts or we get to wrap her up?
Well,
I don't have
Nope.
anything.
yeah, I mean, like I've already said, great show. I really hope other video game adaptations can learn from it and that we just keep getting more great video game adaptations. That's all I'm hoping for is more great video game
Period.
adaptations. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for joining us for the Atomic Lizards podcast. This is another fun bonus episode. Stay tuned for more bonus episodes in the future. And yeah, this is us signing out. See you in the next one.